You are now listening to the Divorce Diaries podcast with your host, well, that's a secret. No names, ages, or any other identifying characteristics will be used as we protect the young and innocent. You'll be taken on a journey as one man considers getting a divorce or remaining married. The Divorce Diaries daily entries chronicle the decision-making processes in real time as they unfold day by day. He hopes to add a bit of clarity to his sometimes muddled mess of a marriage. Cheating, overspending, sex, sadness, and betrayal are the characteristics of this marriage. Is he making the right choice? Welcome to the Divorce Diaries. Entire seasons are released on Patreon weeks before anywhere else. At Divorce Diaries Podcast Patreon page. Link below in description. Now for today's episode.
Hey Siri, what does neurotic mean?
As an adjective, it means suffering from, caused by, or relating to neurosis. Do you want to hear the remaining one?
Yes.
As a noun, it means a neurotic person.
Well, that's not very helpful. But in today's rebooted Divorce Diaries podcast, I just wanted to go into the neuroticism that I feel men sort of accept from women. This is a little bit of a red pill-ish sort of episode. I'm typing in neurotic, Neurotic, neurotic. Let's go, dictionary. Neurotic person, translations and more definitions. Yeah. Okay, this one's all right. This one's a good, an adjective. In non-technical use, it's generally known as an abnormal, sensitive, obsessive, or anxious. Obsessive or anxious. Obsessive or anxious. And I just wanted to talk in this one just about the neuroticism of people, but generally speaking, I think it's found more in women than men. And I think a lot of the falling aparts of our relationships are because sometimes men don't do the best job at managing the neuroticism of the women that they're with. And I didn't do a good job at that. Am I saying my wife was crazy? No. I'm just saying that there are certain things that my wife can sort of obsess about or become anxious about, and I would respond to those things in a frustrated manner. And that's where I failed. She doesn't really like to make plans or make decisions. She usually likes me to make the decisions for her, but sometimes I don't really want to. And on the heels of this Father's Day that I just celebrated with her, it's like, you know, on that day, I kind of don't want to make the decisions. I don't want to really make the plan. I'm like, hey, if you would like to take me out, you can take me out. If you'd like to have a brunch, we'll go to a brunch. If you'd like to do this or that, we'll do it. But just, you know, let me know where to be, what time. Let me know when to get dressed. Let me know, and I'll just make it happen. So it's always weird when she is her neurotic, I can't make a decision self, or I don't want to make a decision, or and it's coming from a great place. She's usually like, I just don't want to do anything that you don't want to do. But she's obsessing over that when I will tell her time and time again, hey, there's nothing that you could choose that I'll be unhappy with. Just you make the decision, and just on Father's Day, look at this as a gift for me. I don't want to make the decision. Sorry, this is a recording that probably screwed up because I had to go into work. I had to really had to take a piss, and I know I left off with neurotic, and I'm just shooting from the hip here. This is the rebooted, again, Divorce Diaries podcast, and I've made a lot of mistakes as a husband by not managing my wife's neuroticism. And I'm not saying that for coming from a place of mocking my wife or trying to disrespect women in general. It's just there's a level of neurosis that exists within, for the most part, women. There's an obsessive nature to, let's see if I can pull this up again in Safari. Neurotic person, a non-technical use, abnormally sensitive, obsessive, or anxious. Like, let's say a woman, let's go with the general tropes. I'm sensitive about my weight, or I'm sensitive about my age, and obsessing about which outfit to wear, or, and I know this isn't all women, it's some. Sorry, no, it's more than some, it's most. And then anxious. We shouldn't go down there. Tell the kid to get off of that thing. They're going to hurt themselves. Oh my God, stop. Or let's not go to that. Seems like it might not be the best move. There's a caution that can sometimes be obsessive or anxious in women, hence the definition neurotic. And let's just look up neurosis. 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 It's a relatively mild mental illness that is not caused by organic disease involving symptoms of stress, like depression, anxiety, obsessive behavior, or hypochondria, but not a radical loss of touch with reality. Okay. A non-technical use is an excessive and irrational anxiety or obsession. So neurosis and neuroticism, they kind of go hand in hand. And if anyone, male or female, has had a significant amount of time with a woman or whatever, you know that a lot of times there is a level of obsession that can happen with different things, varying things. That's hot. Don't touch that. That's sharp. Get off of that. You may hurt yourself. And that there's just all of these things that generally aren't found in your average man. He just doesn't communicate that way. Now, I think where most men fail, where I know I have definitely failed, is just my response to the neurosis, or my response to the neuroticism. Or let's take that out, because I know a lot of people just say, well, you're calling a woman crazy, you're calling her neurotic, and she's not neurotic. How I responded to my wife's obsessions, or how she would become anxious, I would tell her, don't be anxious. That's not how anyone can do anything remotely like processing, handling their anxiety. You don't tell someone to just stop doing that. You actually have to process it. You have to acknowledge it. There's usually, if there's some therapy process that happens, you're kind of figuring it out and getting yourself acquainted with the root cause, and then the stressors and the triggers, and then why you might be processing this, childhood circumstances. It's a really long process, but sometimes as a jerk, arrogant husband or something like that, I would say, stop obsessing. Just make a decision. I remember another thing, my wife would cheat. She'd get really upset behind the wheel of a car. And let's say my wife was going to be on the interstate for 10 miles until her exit. She would typically drive in the right lane, and the right lane usually has to contend with the people that are getting off of the interstate and getting into those, merge off lanes to get off of the exit. And they also would have to deal with the people that are getting onto the interstate and merging in. So if you ride in the far most right lane, you're generally going to have a lot more interaction with your accelerator and your brake pedal, because you're going to be constantly, or not constantly, but more often than the far left lane, you're going to be dealing with the slowing down and speeding up that comes along with people needing to merge in and out off of the interstate at varying speeds. So how I would typically handle it, which was 100% wrong, I would say, don't ride in the right lane. I literally would kind of scold my wife's behavior. And in one sentence, don't drive in the right lane or get in the middle lane. I'm telling her that she's making a bad decision that wasn't even on her radar. So I'm coming for her. I'm attacking her decision. I'm commanding her and telling her what to do. So I'm being bossy or controlling. And then when she doesn't, I continue to go on and berate her further by telling her giving her more and more supporting evidence on how she's making a bad decision, how she made a bad call, why she's here. Oh, see, you have to slow down right now. The only reason you have to slow down right now is because of you're in the wrong lane. If you see, had you been over there, then you wouldn't have done this. And the whole time I'm meaning to help her solve a problem that she didn't ask that needed to be solved. And I'm just taking that neurosis because I would ask her, or her obsession, her obsession, I would say, like, why are you over here? She's like, because my exit's coming up. And I'm like, yeah, it's coming up in 10 miles. She's like, yeah, but I mean, I'd rather not worry about changing lanes later. And I'm like, so you'd rather change lanes a bunch of times now than just change lanes once now, drive 9.5 comfortable miles, and then change lanes one time back over to the right to get off? That seems hard. That seems like it's less stressful to stay here. That's weird. And so I'm like rationalizing her obsession, which is another horrible thing to do. Like, why would you rationalize an obsession? An obsession can't be rationalized because they're obsessing over something that hasn't happened, or that maybe isn't real, or it's a feeling. It's based on a feeling. So it's a horrible thing that I did. And I would just say for anyone, any husband, don't do that to the person that you love like I did, or that you claim to love like I did. If that person is doing something that makes you frustrated, sad, mad, or anything like that, you have to be careful when you handle or try to tackle something like that, because the person is just not going to be as receptive as they could be. They'll likely not be receptive at all, because you're attacking them, you're kind of coming for them, and that's not a good way to be. That's not going to garner you more love, favor, or anything like that from this person. It just won't. And they're going to resent you, and my wife should resent me, because if what my wife is doing is that big a deal, it's a personality trait of hers, I shouldn't make it worse. And I need to really get to know myself and say, are you really making a mountain out of a molehill? Is this really a big deal that you should continue to bring up? Is this something you can change? How much control do you actually have over the situation? And ultimately, what are you doing? Bro, what are you doing? So that is likely why, for the most part, women don't stay friends with each other for very long. And if they are friends for very long, usually women aren't the most authentic friends. And when I say authentic, I don't mean your friend that supports you during your bad behavior and stuff like that, girls' night, girls' trip, all those things. I'm talking about a woman that will really hold you accountable and say, hey, stop doing this. And it seems like those friendships are kind of few and far between. And for men, just know that you're the one that's going to be able to control how you manage the obsessive, compulsive, or whatever natures that might exist within the woman you're with in your long-term relationship. She's going to obsess over things. She's going to be compulsive sometimes. And you need to weather that storm much better than I ever did. Because, I don't know, maybe this could be a how I sucked as a husband. One of the ways I sucked as a husband. Diary entries. Don't make the mistakes I did.
Wow, that was the Divorce Diaries podcast. The Daily Saga will continue tomorrow. The full season's episodes are on Patreon now. Subscribe for early access. Click the Patreon link in the description. Hopefully, these entries help our anonymous recorder as a form of his own personal therapy. That's his hope and his intention. Will these recordings of life's curveballs lead this family to the best resolution in the end? We'll keep listening. New episodes are released daily on all podcast players, but all episodes are available on Patreon at Divorce Diaries Podcast Patreon page. Until next time.